Welcome everybody. It's episode 544 of the SevereMMA Podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Henry Shefflin of Irish MMA Media. Ian O'Neill, as we're back for another busy week in the world of mixed martial arts. Before we get into all of this though, I must tell you just quick little ad here. Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA Podcast. Black Friday sale is now on. If you sign up annually, you get 20% off by using the promo code DIAZ125. DIAZ125. Look, the MMA fans know it. It's less than... What? I put it in myself. I looked it up. It's less than €50. So for the whole year, all these podcasts, early access, which there's about 52 of them, a few more, a Q&A every week. There's probably about 40 of them. I don't get them every week, but most weeks there's the rewatches, which I will be doing every single week, the chasing back, all of that good stuff. So you can get at least 3 extra podcasts every week. This on early access as well for 50 quid for the whole year, and you'll be helping us out, keep the lights on and everything like that as well. So patreon.com/SevereMMA Podcast. Use the code DIAZ125, and when you sign up for the year, you'll get 20% off. So there you go. Right, Ian, let's get right into it, and let's talk about Ian Garry, as he won against Belal Muhammad. And we spoke last week an awful lot about this fight and what Ian needed to do in this fight, how we needed to do it, and what I suppose the outcome would be, and that would be maybe a little bit clearer, the whole welterweight situation after the fight. And even though it kind of went to plan in some ways, in other ways, we're about as clear as mud now. No one has really put like a massive stamp on who should be next. A lot of lads put stamps on the fights. Like Ian had obviously a very good win, which we'll get to. Michael Morales had a fantastic win. Carlos Prates had a fantastic win, and Kamaru Usman has had some brilliant podcasts. Some absolutely fantastic Twitter clips from Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo and all them boys, and Dana White as well. Like some just amazing clips on Twitter have been fucking brilliant. So those lads have all staked their claim over the last while. The first thing I want to start off with, Ian, and maybe I'll even start it myself here for a second. Like we said, like, Ian needs to get a finish to really solidify that place. And from what I've just said there, I think that's right, because like you could see afterwards, like there was no like, oh, Ian's definitely getting the title shot, or Islam Makhachev was there. There was no bringing him into the cage to square him off or anything like that. Just like last week, Carlos Prates didn't get him squared off. But I remember also saying, on I think it was a preview show that we did, if this fight was happening 6 weeks time or 6 weeks ago, I'd probably just like, Jesus, if Ian won via decision and and beat Belal Muhammad, the former champion, the number 1 ranked guy, that'd be pretty good. And it is pretty good. And I think most people would say it is pretty good as well. But we didn't really lean into the thing we used to talk about with Adesanya before, like, is it good enough to just get over the line? And it's a weird thing to say that I think that's a good thing to say for someone, say, like an Islam Makhachev right now, or, Adesanya obviously at that time, or an Anderson Silva back in there, someone like who's already a champion and is, in specific fights as well. I remember I was talking about Adesanya and not saying it for like the Yoel Romero fight, which was a different type of fight. Now, maybe that's the sort of fight this was for Ian Garry, but I think we might have been a little bit over the top in that, like, he needs to get a finish. I think what we're right in saying is he needed to get a finish to definitely get the title shot. But like at the end of the day, this was a very, very good win for Ian Garry. It puts him to maybe the number 1, number 2 ranked guy in the welterweight division. And, I don't think we should overlook that, while at the same time saying, like, no one's gone back on what they said last week. It definitely doesn't solidify it. He might get a title shot, like, depending on what the story is with Shavkat and a few other things as well. And I think we can debate about whether he's above Morales. Anyway, I don't think Prates is a debate, because obviously he beat Prates not too long ago. But what's your general feeling around that? Because I was thinking about that today. It's a tough one to navigate, isn't it? Because like there's no denying that like Ian needed a finish, quote unquote. But also, you just beat the guy who was the guy up until about 6 months ago. So how do you reckon that in your head?
It's a very difficult one to navigate. I mean, I was on with the lads with the Old Triangle. Was out later on this week. We tried to have that discussion, and we came out the other side of it not really knowing who's going to be next, and that's probably the way the conversation that me and you were going to have about it is probably going to go the same direction. I do have some opinions as to, you know, what I feel the performance will be and has been accepted as, and you know, I keep circling back to Ian, and I feel that Ian does himself a little bit of a disservice sometimes in the way he speaks about his opponents before the fight actually happens, in comparison to how he speaks about his opponents after the fight happens.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when you're going out there and saying you're going to kill this guy, he doesn't stand a chance against you on the feet, you're going to punch a hole in his head. Then after the fight, you know, you acknowledge the actual facts and, you know, acknowledge Belal Muhammad as a really difficult opponent, as a guy who's never been finished before in his career. And the acknowledgement of, you know, knowing that it was a difficult fight. You know, obviously there's a way you have to sell the fight. There's a way you have to keep telling yourself that you're going to do what you think you're going to do before the fight. But I think what a lot of people will get attracted to is a level of honesty as well, Shawnee. That I don't know that we get from Ian before fights. I think we do get a level of honesty after fights. And what does that do? That takes away from the actual performance that happened last night in particular, and sometimes in previous fights as well, where Ian doesn't get the credit that he deserves for putting on a level of performance that he does. And the level of performance that he put on against a guy like Belal Muhammad this past weekend was very, very good. It was elite. It was an elite technical masterclass in certain ways, in what he was able to deliver inside the cage and in terms of damage. But, you know, and Belal did get off a couple of shots, but in terms of damage taken, it was a minimum as well. So what do I think about it? I think the UFC has created a narrative based off entertainment, and the casual fans get sucked into a level of entertainment that they see inside of the cage. And you have to ask yourself, with all of the people who are on up and coming now, with the quote unquote competition that's going on for number one contendership, with all of the new prospects in the welterweight division, which performance would get the casual fans excited the most? Is it that Ian Garry like technical masterclass last night? Would it be the fact that Carlos Prates knocking Leon Edwards dead, or Michael Morales stopping Sean Brady inside of one round? You know, that's up to each and every single person what they prefer and what their preference is to decide that. But in terms of a marketing and promotional standpoint, you know, the UFC has tended to side with guys who are going out there and getting finishes and creating that hype. Whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing, you know, I believe that it should be Ian Garry next for the title. But, you know, we have to look at what has happened previously in terms of the way certain divisions have been matched up. You know, it doesn't fill me with great confidence that Ian Garry is going to get the next shot after that performance against Belal Muhammad last night.
Yeah, I think it should be Shavkat next if he can get fit. But like I think Ian was saying it last night that Shavkat had a very bad injury, and then he did the same injury again, so he's going to be out for another really long time.
And it's a tough one for him to come back into too, Shawnee. Yeah. Maybe he might not. Maybe he might want to just dip his toes into the water a little bit before going into that challenge.
That. Yeah, and there's plenty of lads there for him to do that as well. Like after that, then I just think it's Ian. I disagree with you slightly. I think it'll be Kamaru Usman. Like I just think there's been too much stuff coming out and the things that Dana White has been saying and all. I think they're going to give it to Usman. I
genuinely think it would be Kamaru Usman as well. Actually, to be honest, I probably should have stated that, but which is probably like
they want an American guy on the bottom. And the White House card as well, like, you know, so that, you know, there aren't many American contenders at the moment. I know, you know, Kamaru obviously represents both America and Nigeria, but like, I think for that he'd probably be carrying the American flag if he were going to the White House. I want, there's one point.
He's have to paint his face in the American flag.
Get the 50 stars on it as well. I wanted to harken back to the point you were making about Ian, and I suppose the talk around him and the narrative around him that he puts on himself. And I think you're right, because like, you know, you often hear, you know, wrestlers and stuff saying like, "Oh, talk up your opponent beforehand," because if you talk him up, and you've even heard Chael Sonnen talking about this, like, that guy's the best in the world, that guy's brilliant, and you know, I go up and beat him, I'm going to look like I'm the best in the world because I beat the guy who's the best in the world. But if you say he's rubbish beforehand and then afterwards he's the best in the world, I think people can kind of read through that, and it's a bit disingenuous. But I think the thing with Ian, and this is just the way he works, this is not a criticism or it's not a compliment, he always has to say something, you know. And there was a time there where he didn't. He kind of went quiet and he thinks, and I think that was a smart thing to do. But like on the lead up to the fight, there's always like, you know, some sort of gimmick. There's always some sort of a video, and there's always, and like that's, you know, fight promotion. Look, that's the way you have to do it, because the UFC are certainly not going to do it for you. How many fights, like how many people didn't realize Kyoji Horiguchi was fighting until, oh shit, we're in the middle of the prelims, here's Kyoji Horiguchi. Even us last week, we're pulling up the card doing the preview, like, oh fuck, hold on, Kyoji Horiguchi's fighting Ulanbekov here. He's one of the best fighters in the world. What's going on here? This could be a number one contender fight. If you're waiting for the UFC, you're not going to see it at all. But the thing about that is, you know, sometimes you can be kind of reaching, and sometimes it can be like a bit disingenuous, and you know, a bit pro wrestling. You know, you're making up a storyline for the sake of a storyline type of thing when they don't actually exist. Whereas I think, like, for the ones who did it very well down through the years, it was always like more natural and people got invested that way. But we are living in a different world now, and we are living in a different society where it's, you know, your IShow Speeds and your Jake Pauls and you know, your Kai Cenats and your KSIs are the people that people like now, and everything that those people do is all coordinated and, you know, made up and everything like that. So it's a different world. Maybe we were just too old for that sort of thing, and Ian's doing it the right way, because certainly things that he does and says kind of resonate with people, whether negatively or positively, and they go viral and all these sort of things. So there's you can't criticize him for that. But I think for the fight fan kind of looking into it and seeing that side of it, it is it can sometimes be exactly what you said there. It's like we talked about it with Adesanya as well. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm the best fighter in the world, I'm going to do that. And then at the end of it, like, you win a decision against Jared Cannonier or something like that, where everyone's walking out of the crowd in the fourth round, and it's, you know, it's a very different outcome afterwards. But, and I think the problem with that, and I usually wouldn't talk about those sort of things unless it was, you know, a really fucking big issue or a big part of it, or like we're talking about someone gaining superstardom or whatever. But for Ian, I suppose, because of the nature of the division at the moment, and it being like, you know, as Dana White says about the Contender Series, like a job interview, basically. It's basically a job interview for the welterweight title shot. When you say you're going to knock this guy out and you're going to absolutely take the welterweight title shot, and then you don't do that and you win a decision, and like, it's a good performance. We'll get into the performance now in a second. And then afterwards, like, the one thing that really hit me, I don't really have much of a criticism for any of the rest of it, but I see other people criticizing it. The one thing I would say is, like, you just went to a decision with Belal Muhammad and couldn't knock him out, didn't really get close to knocking him out. And then you were straight away, Islam Makhachev, I'm going to knock you out. And I'm like, what? You just didn't knock out Belal Muhammad. Like, calm down. It's like, you go at it a different sort of way. It's like, I beat all these guys on the way up. It's either me or Shavkat. Shavkat's injured, so I'm the next guy. You have to face me. I liked all the things he said about I'm the best welterweight in the world and you have to face me next. Now, I thought that was a very good promo. I actually thought the promo in the cage was very, very good as well. But the press conference and stuff afterwards, I was just like, no, that's just not the way to do it. But let's get into the performance. We can talk maybe more about the welterweight picture in a second. I didn't think it was Ian's best performance, to be honest. I know you said it was a technical and tactical masterclass. I didn't. I think Ian did go out and try to put himself more in harm's way a little bit against Belal, to open him up, to land big shots, to finish him. And I just think he couldn't do it. I think he went outside of his game. A lot of that fight, I think when he got back to it in the second round and slowed down the fight and things, I think he was a lot better. And then, like, what Ian's really good at is starting at a pace, gaining control of the fight, you know, getting your reads, and then up on the pace. And we saw in the third round when he upped it, he had an incredible third round. I thought he was really, really good in that third round. I know you thought he lost the second round. I actually thought he lost the first round. I thought Belal was landing a lot of hard shots and things like that. 2 very close rounds, and the third not so much. But I definitely had Ian win, and as I know you did too. But I think like Ian did a bit of that like forward stance, Michael Morales type of thing against Belal, and I don't think there was really need for it against Belal. I think he could have stopped those takedowns anyway with his jab and with his lint, and I think he actually kind of gave up that jab and gave up that lint to do that. Now, he was amazing against the cage, amazing defensively in that situation, but I think on the feet defensively, if you fight Islam Makhachev the way you fought Belal right there, or you fight Morales, or you fight Praches again, I think Ian's probably getting knocked out in those fights, because you can't take as many shots as he took against Belal, or leave yourself as open, because Belal's not the biggest hitter in the world. We all know that. You can't leave yourself as open against those lads I just spoke about. And I think he did a lot of that. Now, that's maybe the negative part, and the positive part, obviously, the fact he grew into the fight and got better, and the defensive nature of it again with the takedowns was just absolutely unbelievable, like top level. And that's the part I'd be looking at when I'm going forward to Makhachev. But first of all, Ian, what did you think of I know you called it a technical masterclass. Why did you think it was such a technical masterclass rather than kind of what I was saying?
Well, it was the ability for him to take away Belal Muhammad's entire game, to be honest. And I think it didn't come without some flaws, especially in round 1. And I'm glad that you highlighted the kind of the hips away, kind of bent over kind of defense that he had early days, that we've seen that Michael Morales had as well. When he took on Sean Brady. And what I guess you have to highlight that as to why he did that. Obviously, he wants to give himself the best opportunity to keep his hips as far away from Belal Muhammad, so that Muhammad has to travel a longer distance to get the hips. To also, even get a single leg from that position is very hard. It was the jab. I tell you, his jab was unbelievable. In keeping Belal at bay. We had the front kick down the middle to the body, sometimes to the face. We had that nasty oblique kick as well. All of those things were gave Ian the ability to control the distance that he wanted to fight at. We said that in the preview show, and even last week in the podcast. It was so important for him to be able to do that, and to, we didn't necessarily fear Ian getting taken down up against the cage, because we see how good he is there. He's a judo black belt at the end of the day. It's not going to be easy to take a guy like Ian Garry down from the cage like that. We've seen how strong his underhooks are. We've seen it against Shavkat, his ability to keep the fight on the feet. I think the biggest fear for Ian last night was getting closed off in the open spaces where Belal could maybe shoot for that double leg. And Ian didn't allow him to do that. Not at all. And it got to a stage where, Belal was shooting from miles out and almost panic shooting at certain stages. And that's why I thought that's pretty technical, and that's absolutely killing off a main facet of somebody's game there, because no matter what Belal Muhammad said he was going to do, he's going to outbox him and take him down at will. Before he wanted to get that fight down, he wanted to put Ian down on his back. And, to say that he chose to stand and bang with Ian Garry over the course of 3 rounds, that's not the case. He did not have a choice in the matter here, because Ian Garry never gave him the opportunity to take the fight down. And those are the things, the feinting, I think setting that pace early days was to somewhat kind of take Belal Muhammad off of his kind of rhythm. I think he wanted to start fast so that Belal Muhammad couldn't find that range early. And, I think all of those little small things too, for me, would be why I would label it very technical and very good too. Now, I feel that stooped over stance early days got him caught with a lot more shots than he would have liked. I do think that, the danger he plays with the hands down and the forward back and the chin up, or like leaning back and with the chin up in the air, I don't like seeing that. But I think when he was stooped down, that distance was off for him, as opposed to when he got into his own game, where he likes to fight normally a little bit taller and is used to that range distance. And I think he found it hard to adjust to that when he was kind of stooped down, and he figured out, like you said, in round 2 that he didn't need to do that in round 2, and that's where we kind of seen, a little bit better the work defensively from Ian Garry against Belal. But it wasn't a super clean victory, but at the same time, he didn't take that many bad shots either, Shawnee. Most of the shots that Belal threw were when Ian was on the back foot. I think the biggest shot of the fight came in round 3 with that big right hand over the top that half wobbled Belal Muhammad. But he's a very difficult guy to put away. And, obviously, we had a lot of things happening. We had the eye poke, the supposed eye poke.
Yeah.
I just think, that's why I would call it a technical masterclass, is when you have the ability to take someone's complete game and take their complete arsenal out of the picture, especially a guy who was a world champion, a UFC champion 6 months ago. There has to be a lot said about that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I suppose it is the dilemma we face when we're talking about this fight. As I started off with, that Belal is a very, very good fighter, but I think we all acknowledge coming in that Ian was kind of a bad matchup for him, and if Ian can stop the takedown, which he did. I'm just looking at the stats here: 7 takedowns Belal went for and got 0. If you'd said to someone Ian's going to stop the takedown, how's the fight? He's going to stop every single takedown for 15 minutes. How's the fight going to go? And then the fight turns out to be a relatively even 15 minutes. I think. And again, we're talking about the very, very top here. We're talking about world class, the best of the best. So this is being very, very critical from my part of view, being very, very, very critical of people, as we should be at that. If we're talking about Real Madrid or the New York Mets, or we're talking about whoever the best team in the world, or the Dodgers even, we need to we need to critique them or analyze them that way. And I think what I always say, and I've said this many times, the ability to adjust is such an important thing at the high level. And I think that, for me, was the biggest plus point for Ian Garry on Saturday night. I think the way he adjusted into the second is this thing just isn't going. Even though I think on all three judges' cards, he won the first round. And I think, funnily enough, he lost the second round on one card. But I think the opposite. But the fight changed because of the adjustment that he made, in my opinion. He definitely took control of the pace of that fight. He controlled the pace of the fight in the first as well, because he let Belal fight the pace he wanted to fight, and then he attempted to use a jab, as you said. Those oblique kicks, as you mentioned, were fucking unbelievable. They were so good, and the leg kicks he threw as well. But that's a dangerous game to play. We know, we talked about judging so many times, that you control a lot of those leg kicks and oblique kicks, and they're good shots. But you leave yourself open to 4 or 5 big punches, which I thought Belal landed in that first round, and you can lose that round because of that. And that's the reason I was scoring the round against him. But again,
if I could counteract the first round a little bit as to why I felt Ian did enough.
He caught him as well, didn't he? A bit, but
yeah, he caught him with the 1-2 early days. He took him off the feet with a calf kick. Yeah. Obviously, those oblique kicks as well. The jab was prominent throughout the round. Now, Belal did catch him with a couple of big shots, I do agree, but as I look back at the fight, you'll notice that the arm when Ian is moving away, which kind of takes a little bit of the impact off. It was actually one shot that Belal landed at the very start of the second round.
Yeah,
that was a monster shot by Belal Muhammad, and I'm wondering if it was that was at the very start of round 2. I'm wondering, is that the moment that Ian said, "Oh, here, maybe we need to
could have been that." Yeah. There was another fight. Actually, in Cage Wars, we'll get to that later on, or a similar thing. Ian kind of was cut himself at the end of the first round. That first round is a very tough round to score, to be honest. And the second round is too, to be honest. It was a very, very interesting fight. It's one of those. I remember we were talking in the group before the fight, and a couple of lads put in Jesus, as we were saying last week, it's not in groundbreaker or anything. Really fancy in here. Is anyway, Belal wins, and I was Belal Belal's a very good wrestler. Or he can pressure you very well and like put it on you. Like we've seen him put it on people before, and I like to give Belal credit. You know, he did do that. He put it on Ian pretty well during that fight for times, and Ian responded like extremely well. I think, especially for the last 10 minutes, but for like most of the first round as well. To be honest, apart from 4 or 5 shots that he took, so like it's one of those fights that I think it might not earn Ian a title shot, but I think it's probably the best thing that could happen to him if he's willing to go back and look at it in the cold light of day with whatever coaches are there. And like the worst thing you can do is have a fight like that and look at it and go, "Oh, it was perfect. I won every single bit of it." And you know, look at the good things you can do good, but look at the bad parts of that fight, improve on them, and it'll really help you going into like a fight against Islam Makhachev or something like that. So it was.
He interestingly said that after a fight that he felt it was the best performance of his career so far.
Yeah, no, do you agree with that? I couldn't.
I wouldn't
agree
with that. No, I wouldn't agree with that.
And like you're like obviously on the more positive side of it than me. I don't know. Maybe it was just the expectations.
It's also a performance that wouldn't make me. Fill me with great confidence that if he produced that level of performance against Islam, he's not going to win a fight.
No, but like the thing about it is that if he did do that against Islam over 5 rounds and stopped every single takedown, like there isn't a big adjustment you need to make to win that fight on defeat. Then it'd be a close fight, yeah. So, but that's like we've seen that with Paul Hughes now a couple of times as well. Like 2 very close fights when you do a good job of like negating the wrestling for a good part. And we saw it with Ian against Shavkat as well. Like. And here is the crux, like I've just come up with it as we go here. The crux of why I'm not disappointed, but what I think like it could have been 5% better is that you need to set yourself apart sometimes in fights against guys like that. We spoke about this with Usman or Magomedov afterwards. There's certain things he does that just win rounds, like the ability of him to control the fight with the jab and get a takedown and maybe get 2 or 3 minutes on top and land a few shots. And then there's always like one heavy shot throughout the round. Whereas if you look at Ian's game, like let's say if we look at Ian as Ian's meta game for future fights, whether it's Islam or not, the jab is brilliant, as you talked about earlier on. The oblique kick is absolutely fantastic. His takedown defense is absolutely brilliant. It's not going to score him points, but we know it's very good. But like he tried to take Belal down twice and he didn't take him down. Maybe against another fighter, a takedown and getting on top himself could happen. The power shot, there was no real massive power shot in this fight against Belal that like, you know,
and let's say it has been for Ian Sean. There never has been really. Not
recently. I think he has it in his arsenal, but I think Ian. Do you know what's funny? We see it later in fights sometimes. We see it in the 3rd round here. We saw it in later fights before. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, Ian's cardio is really, really good. So, my biggest issue here is, like, the way he set out the game plan. If he had started in the 1st round the way he fought the 2nd round and fought at that slower pace and found his control, found his dominance, and then opened up, I actually think he could have gotten the finish in the 3rd round. Let's say the 2nd round played out exactly like the 3rd round played out, and then there was another round after that. I think Ian could have upped it and done it a little bit more. Now, that's a bit of a faux criticism, I think, because I just complimented him for adjusting his game plan because of the way the 1st round went. So, like, 2 things can be true at the same time, but I think that's the reason why this fight was like a little bit of a disappointment, that it took a while for him to get into the fight the way he should have, I think, from the start. But once he did it, it was obviously very, very good. And, like, it's very hard to look at this fight just by itself as well, without like the overview of the welterweight title picture and the overview of like he needs a finish to gain a title shot. Like, again, to just reiterate the point I made at the start, if you said something like 18 months ago, or whenever Belal won the title, you know, in 18 months' time, Ian Garry's going to go out there and he's going to beat Belal Muhammad and win every single round on 2 cards and win, you know, the decision as well on the other card. People would say, Jesus, fucking fair play to him. He's after beating the champion of the world, and you know, and he's gone on and he's gonna do whatever he does. So it's hard to be too critical either. But Isn't it great though that like we can have someone who just beat the number one contender, and I can come on here and go, James, he could have been a bit better. Like that's fantastic for Irish MMA and everything like that. So it's this is all analysis more than criticism.
5-round fight would have suited him a hell of a lot better.
Oh, it would have been so much better, wouldn't it? And I really enjoyed the fight. I thought it was a fucking brilliant fight. Like I think most people did, in fairness, but
yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. I think. I mean, I felt more so kind of like I was kind of angry that he kind of devalued himself a little bit by the way he talks before the fight. Yeah. It was a little bit disappointing because I feel like, you know, that's going to take away from what he did out there. And then like I asked the question if you like, I mean, you know, this was set up for him to kind of go out and put on a performance after the welterweight title fight. In another world, I guess the question I have for you is how much backing do you think the UFC want to give a guy like Ian Garry? Like, because in another world they would have, you know, I don't think it's beyond or really reaching too much to say that the UFC have kind of, you know, if they want to put a push behind a guy, they will give him, you know, favorable scenarios, favorable kind of fights. You know, give a guy like Ian Garry maybe a 5-round fight against a guy like Belal Muhammad, where, you know, I think everybody would be in agreement that if that fight had went 2 rounds more last night, the win would have been even more dominant again. You know, in certain ways, like if they wanted them to kind of match up against Islam Makhachev, would they have put him on the New York card, and would they have put another fight on in Qatar? You know, I guess, do you feel that the UFC are handcuffing a guy like Ian Garry a little bit?
I don't think on purpose. I don't think they handcuff anyone on purpose, but I don't think they give a helping hand to anyone on purpose either. As I said earlier on, like with Ian having to do the promotion for himself, like that goes for every fighter. Like I just think the UFC are throwing a lot of shit at the wall, and you know, and literally throwing the shit at the wall, and Dana White's wall and the thing. Oh, here's this fight. Oh, Qatar or last week, next week. Oh yeah, we've a spot there. Let's fill it in. Like there's no rhyme or reason. Like you see, there was a Brazilian card there last year. Was it Jessica Andrade or someone was fighting in fucking Melbourne the week before a Brazilian card? I'm like, that's just. And like I'll go even one further. Like, and Dana White said this himself. Like, why wasn't Ian Garry brought to Ireland to headline a card in Ireland? Like, why wasn't the Jeff Neal fight or a Neil Magny fight or a Carlos Braches fight in Ireland? And like now as well, right? If you're not giving Ian Garry the next title fight, let's have him fight in Ireland. Like Ian versus, and I think it's going to be Kamaru sometime, like Ian versus Michael Morales in Ireland, headline in Dublin.
That's the fight I want.
Let's get that going.
I said it on the outer angle too. I think that's the next fight that's going to happen, because Jack Della Maddalena, he's not going to, he shouldn't fight him, nor should he not fight him, because Jack Della Maddalena is coming off a loss. He already fought Belal Muhammad coming off a loss. I think what Michael Morales does for him, he's the new hot prospect in the division. He's undefeated. You know, it'd be a win that would mean something to the fans as well. And what a fight it would be, Sean.
That's a fight I've talked about for years. Like that's eventually going to happen. It might be the time now, but you never know either. You never know what way it's going to shake up. Like I think with Islam as well, when's he going to come back? Like he's talking about this White House card. Like we'd all hope, I suppose, that he'd come back earlier, but that's probably not going to happen now. So I don't know. If you're Ian, like, do you sit and wait for that? Like that's 8 months away, 9 months away, or do you take a fight in the new year and try to get a big knockout? Let's say take Morales, and Morales mightn't take it either. You'd never know, but take someone in the new year and try to get another big win. I don't know. It's a tough one, but yeah,
that's what I would do. I feel that, you know, based off what I've kind of said before, it's like I feel Ian is in a position here where, you know, I feel that he kind of is done already, but he's going to have to make himself absolutely undeniable, and him taking these fights at short notice, and him taking on any test that's put in front of him, you know, that's got him to where he is right now. And, you know, to get to the next step for the title shot, he's going to have to just, you know, I feel go out there. I think Islam is not going to fight until the White House card. Ian's not going to want to be on the shelf for that long. It's not within his nature. And I feel, you know, he's confident that he beats everybody in the world. I think, you know, I personally think that there's only 2 people that he doesn't beat in the welterweight division, or, you know, has a possibility of not beating, and that would be Shavkat and Islam. And I think why wouldn't you go in there and take on anybody else? I think he'd probably take a Shavkat rematch. He'd challenge everybody, but I think the Morales fight is the one that would be a winnable fight for him. It would be a suitable kind of striking battle for him, and it would be one that would generate great hype, and he would get some plaudits if he went out there and got the job done. And Jesus, even one better again, Sean, if it happened in Ireland as well, it'd be fantastic.
If I'm him, I'm saying like, right, either a title shot or an Ireland fight, and like that's that. Let's do that. But I don't know. It looks like I see Cage Warriors have announced that they're coming back to London in is it March? So usually we know what happens when Cage Warriors are in London. That on a Friday, I think, isn't it? Isn't the next night we have a UFC? So I don't know if that's a hint or not. I have no inside information or anything on that. I didn't even ask anyone, but we'll see if that happens. And they've wanted to make this Leon Edwards fight for a long time, but I don't know. That's probably not going to happen now. Are they going to do the Prates rematch? I don't know, but that make a whole lot of sense. So Morales seems like he's the next guy, but then that would be like. And if we're to go with Shavkat being out injured, that would mean Usman gets the shot, which is like, I know I've been joking about it here and stuff, but like that is just ridiculous at this point. And I respect Usman. Usman is the second greatest UFC welterweight of all time, in my opinion. He's a great fighter, but like he's coming off a win to Jackie Buckley. Again, a very good fighter, but Jackie Buckley's not in the class of the other lads we spoke about, and this is not the first time I'm saying that either. Like, I would love to see Usman fighting a Prates or a Morales and beating one of those guys, and then, fight. Absolutely, maybe fight for a title shot then, let's say after an Ian or Shavkat had it, but we'll see how all that goes anyway. But like overall, I maybe a bit negative, but like it's great to see obviously all of that there was very unbiased. Obviously we analysed that down the middle from the positives and negatives. To be a bit biased for a second, it's great to see an Irishman back here as, I don't know if we can call him the number one contender now. He's probably number one, number two contender in the world on Wednesday when the rankings are updated. And like have a
record for all-time wins for an Irish person in the UFC as well, at only 28 years of age as well. So
I'd be very surprised if he didn't double that, to be honest. If he didn't get to 20,
Me too.
I'd be shocked, to be honest. Even if if he doesn't win the title in his next two fights or whatever, I'd be shocked if he doesn't double that. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic to have another fighter on that level again. It's absolutely brilliant. And just one last thing.
Hamza Chimaev.
Two last things.
Yeah. I wanted to bring that in and see what you thought.
This stuff. Ian's other big misstep, saying Islam is a Habib protege. I'm a Conor McGregor protege. The biggest load of nonsense of all time. Like, if people don't know, if you're tuned in here or not Irish or whatever. Conor McGregor came through at SPG Ireland, right? Mike Morales, Ian Garry came through Team KF, right? Which used to be, what was the name of it? SPG, was it Swords? SPG Swords, wasn't it? So that was Chris Fields and Tom King. And then they had like a massive falling out with John Kavanagh at SPG. They took the SPG name out of their name. They were Team KF. Like, there was a lot of kind of a back and forth, like massive falling out. And then Ian Garry came through at Team KF, the massive rivals of SPG, Conor McGregor's gym. And like, I believe Ian was like throwing shit at a load of lads at SPG and stuff. Like, I believe in even maybe interviews with me and stuff, like calling lads rubbish and everything. And in an interview with me, famously said, if you go to Bellator route, you're shite, which all the SPG fighters went at the time. So he's a Conor McGregor protege than Ian sitting across from me here is. Like, he's just absolute another bullshit. Like, but like, he's trying to sell the fight. I couldn't believe he's doing that as well, because like, look how badly this Paul Hughes and Usman Dagestan versus Ireland thing went, and McGregor turning on him and all. Like, just, we're all sick of that shit. No one is falling for it, and all the Irish people are sick of it. So just, if there's one thing, just stop with that shit. But the Chimaev thing, I actually thought Ian came out very well on the Chimaev thing, because like, he was very friendly to him. And then like, the security guard comes in between him, and then Chimaev just pushes him out of nowhere, and then Ian's like, call him a child and everything. I like that. I thought that was a good, like, old school bit of backstage.
There's a sense of development in Ian's eyes there. And I wonder, was he trying to poke the bear there a little bit? Yeah. It's like there was the famous Australian rules commentator, and he was famous for saying he's been poking the bear and the bear's responded. That's a kind of what I could see for that. But he did come out the better of the other side. Like, Hamza is just crazy man altogether.
Well, yeah. So players.
One lunatic side by side by another lunatic in Arman Tsarukyan.
Just before we get to that lunatic, there's a third lunatic. We have just as we're recording there. Oh God, I'm not going to read all of this. Actually, there's a tweet from Conor McGregor for the first time in months. Hey guys, I'm back. I was blessed to meet the most forward-thinking doctors from Stanford University undergo a series of treatments to address trauma. I traveled to Tijuana, Mexico, and underwent Libogaine, I believe it is, treatment and Ambio. I watched a Netflix documentary just released, etc. It was incredible, intense, and eye-opening experience. I was shown what would have been my death, how soon it was to be, and how it would have impacted my children. I was looking down on myself as it happened, and then I was looking out from my coffin, and a lot of more stuff as well. So it'll be interesting to see where all that goes from Conor McGregor. Just while I'm on his Twitter page as well, Ian, still blocked. So the spiritual awakening didn't get me an unblock there. So that's your update from Conor McGregor. Right, Arman Tsarukyan. This was the most one-sided, high-level fight ever in modern MMA, UFC anyway. I coming into this, we talked about it last week, and this was like, I don't know, this was like a street fight or something like that. You know, it was one of those fights. Do you remember that Dennis Frimpong fight he had against the lad that Topology refused to put up? This is like that fight. He just beat the living shit out of him in all areas. It was, oh my God, I don't know. It was like, do you know what it was like? You don't really see these in high level fights, but you'd watch a lot of these fights now. You see, like, let's say there's like a real good prospect coming through a Team Rhino or SPG or somewhere. Like, do you know what? There was probably like a Kiefer Crosby or a James Gallagher fight or something like this in the amateurs back in the day, where they, you know, they're really good and they're like 5-0 as an amateur, and they end up fighting a guy who's like 1-0 as an amateur.
We saw one on this card. It was the Turkish guy, Yakiev, beating Rafael Cajera in the light heavyweight division. Like, just a pure demolition, just like a human sacrifice. That's what it was.
I thought that was. Am I a bit harsh on that? Did you think it was the same? Like, I like Dan Hooker, but it
was like I like Dan Hooker. Like I like him. I like his personality. I like his heart. I like his, you know, determination. I like his confidence for even taking a fight like this. But what was this fight? What was the point of this fight? It's just like a placeholder. I said it in the preview show, and I'll say it again. It's just, this fight was punishment for Arman.
You're dead right.
For missing weight.
100%.
That's what this fight was. It was punishment. It's like, you're going to have to go in here now, and you're going to have to get through another camp, and you're going to have to go out here, and you're going to have to beat Dan Hooker. And that's exactly what he did. And like, it wasn't competitive at all. And obviously when the fight hit the mat, it was even less competitive here. So I asked myself, like, what was the whole point of this? And the only thing I could see is that the UFC didn't want to give him the number one contendership fight, because he fucked up the main event when he was lined up to fight Islam Makhachev, and they just kind of made him come over here, take on Dan Hooker, get an easy win, and now we're back in the exact same position as we would have been if this fight had never happened. And he's still, strangely enough, you know, not guaranteed to get the next immediate title shot too. So crazy.
Yeah, not by no means. Like, all the rumors going around for the last while is that Paddy Pimblett's going to get it now. Whether this change, you know, the UFC can change it, you know, in a second. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, just like a pointless fight. Apart from Arman Tsarukyan missed weight, you know, or he didn't miss weight. We got sick, didn't he, or something? Was it that, or I don't know? But he didn't make the fight anyway.
He refused to weigh in, citing a back injury or something like that. Was what was. I don't know whether that was confirmed or that was rumored, but like, I mean, like, he almost fucking cost himself in this fight as well before the fight even started. Like, I don't know what the hell he was thinking about throwing that headbutt at the weigh-ins. It's like. And now Dan Hooker's coming out after the fight saying that his nose was broken or his nose was fractured in that. Like, I mean,
really?
He's lucky that it was like Dan Hooker, because if it had been someone else, they would have probably refused to fight.
And nobody in their rights to do it as well. Like, that was ridiculous.
100%. Like this guy, Arman Tsarukyan, like, I'm a massive fan of him, and you know,
100%.
I have been a massive fan of him ever since he first came in and fought Islam Makhachev in his very first UFC fight, very competitive fight, lost the decision. Like, I'm a huge fan of his skill set, but his personality, this guy, I don't know, like he just has this elitist mentality and a chip on his shoulder for no apparent reason whatsoever. And I can't buy into that.
Yeah.
And his actions, like, going in there and throwing the head at Dan Hooker too, that doesn't help things. It doesn't help things for him. That doesn't help him in the eyes of the UFC. And it's just all, I don't know, man. It's all like really weird. It's really weird. And it's a shame because he is a tremendous fighter and he's tremendously skilled as well. And it's just, he's a strange individual.
And you know what's weird? Like, you can have a personality that's a bit strange or that people either like or, like, say, let's say Ian Garry or Ilia Topuria, right? But it won't make a difference. It will make a difference, but it won't harm you a lot if you make the right decisions at the right time. Let's say, like, Ian taking short notice fights and winning them and doing well, gaining respect, or, you know, he went in and beat Bilal. He's never really fucked up an opportunity much, or, like, you know, Topuria obviously going in there knocking everyone out. Like, Topuria is one of the weirdest guys in the world. I just think, like, he's such an off-putting personality that I just, like, stop listening to him because I like his fighting so much. But it doesn't matter because his fighting is such a good fighter. It actually doesn't matter. Whereas Tsarukyan's fighting is amazing as well. But, like, that title fuck up and now headbutting Dan Hooker and, like, it's weird. Do you know, this is a bit like fucking Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, and now that's a bit over the top. But, like, what does he gain by beating someone so much worse than him? Like we're like, and I know
I don't think he has the choice in the matter, Shawnee, because what do you do here? You turn down the fight, and he's been known to turn down fights before. Yeah. He said it that he's turned down fights. Obviously, the UFC do not like that kind of thing either. You know, there's people who've been watching for a long time. They know these things. They know that you have to play a ball with the UFC, or the UFC will make things difficult for you. And I just think this was a kind of an ingredient of the UFC trying to make things difficult for Arman Tsarukyan.
You're right. And my criticism is not really of Arman in terms of this fight. It's in terms of the UFC and why they did it. But it explains itself that the UFC did this on purpose, which is fucking insane too, isn't it?
And Arman can't turn it down, or else he's going to be in the bad books again.
The UFC, like, purposefully give us the ick on Arman Tsarukyan. Like, no, he didn't help himself either. But, like, by throwing the headbutt and what happened in the last title fight. But at the same time, look, just like Ian, just like Topuria, you almost have to forget about all of that stuff for a second and then look at what happens inside it. And, like, he's amazing. Like, even kind of getting caught in that guillotine and the way he rolled out of it, a little bit like McGregor against Mendez, but even more kind of athletic and more circular, if you want to put it that way. Like, landing some nice head kicks, just destroying him on the feet, and then finishing him in the second round. It was a very, very good display. Like that, no, Dan Hooker tried his best. Like, I always respect a guy like that who's completely outmatched but goes for it. Like, he went for that guillotine, he went hard for it. Like, there's no other way he's winning that fight unless he catches him with something. So I always have a lot of respect for, like, lads who do that. And,
like, bad for Dan Hooker too, being put in that position. But look, that's the reality of the situation he's in with, you know, the level that he can get to. He always kind of has faltered at this kind of level, but he's going to be in more exciting fights. He is going to be looked after, and, you know, I think Arman went out and got the finish. You have to give him credit for that. Like, great price to get, like a plus 235. I think he was to get a submission here.
Yeah, I had him round 1 or round 2. God, I think I don't know, 8-5 or something like that, or just, I don't know. So, yeah, he was just inside the distance. I had it as one of my bets of the week. He was like minus 135 or something like that, which was fucking crazy. Like, over 5 rounds, there was absolutely no way that Dan Hooker was ever lasted 5 rounds against. What do you think about the future, though? Like, because I think there's 3 options. There's Tsarukyan, Gaethje, and Paddy Pimblett. Like, Tsarukyan's the obvious, like, best fight. Paddy Pimblett's the obvious fun money fight, and you probably need to make that now because Paddy, if he's put in against someone else top level, might lose. And then Gaethje's like everyone likes Gaethje's fighting anyway, if not the personality. Again, another guy with a weird personality who's just, we don't care because he's such a great fighter. And then he's like holding them over to the coals as well, like, I'm retiring if you don't give me this title fight. What way do you think it goes?
Like, I have to laugh at Justin Gaethje, who, like, just thinks he should, like, get these opportunities left, right, and center. It's like, come on, man. It's like, you got destroyed by Max Holloway, number 1. I think similar enough to the Ian Garry situation where we feel it, he probably does deserve it. Arman Tsarukyan absolutely deserves it. But I think what Arman Tsarukyan is the big test in the division. What Justin Gaethje is the kind of name and the opportunity to go out there and probably produce a highlight reel knockout. And I think what Paddy Pimblett is the chance to produce a highlight reel knockout, but also the chance to make a hell of a lot of money too, because that's the guy who's going to sell the fight the most with the history there, the following that Paddy has. That's, in my opinion, probably the fight that Ilia Topuria wants, because it's probably the easiest he feels of the three of the fights that he's going to be able to go out there, make some money, get a big win. The UFC are going to look at it in terms of, a big fight maybe to start the year, to start the Paramount deal as well. And plus, it has to go without saying is that, we've talked about this time and time again, is that Paddy has done very well to get himself even into this conversation, but there's not too many tests out there that, I don't feel that there's too many more wins in around the top of the lightweight division for Paddy Pimblett, and you have to strike when the iron is hot in certain terms. This is the time right now to put him in there into the title shot, and I think Ilia wins easily and wins devastatingly. And I think it's all about what Ilia wants and what the UFC wants, and I think the both of them are kind of aligning with that Paddy Pimblett fight right now. And then, obviously you do Arman next.
I have
probably going to put Arman versus Justin Gaethje. That's what they'll probably do next.
I wouldn't mind seeing that, to be honest. They should have done that now. Like, that would have been made a lot of sense now. I feel like we're going to be coming into an era where we see a lot of fights that are like the money fights, or in this case the subscription fights for Paramount Plus. Like, in fairness, okay, the UFC, they're going to end up half-arsing this, just like they did with the ESPN deal. But at the start, I think it's going to be all out. Like, you put on not the best fights, right, but the most highest drawing fights, let's put it that way. So I feel like we'll see Paddy Pimblett and Topuria, and I feel like we'll see Kamaru Usman fighting for the welterweight title as well. But I suppose watch this space. Right, let's run through the rest of the card. Not a bad card. A lot of great finishes, but like not a whole lot of what's the word? Jeopardy. Volkan Ozdemir just went out there, threw a load of hands at Alonzo Minifield and knocked him out in the first round. If you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen I tweeted I fancied that, and 7-2, not bad at all. Alboy did the exact same thing to Jack Hermansson. That's a few heavy losses now for Jack Hermansson. I wonder, might that be it for the old Joker? You could see that. Walter Cortes Acosta again did the exact same thing. Walked down Shamil Ghazayev and landed a few counters off the back foot as well. Only a couple of weeks out from the old eye injury. And
what a story though! This, like, he only got the call there during the week, accepted the fight, got off the plane literally 1 hour before the weigh-ins, weighed in at the 265. Goes in and produces a level of performance there that's class. That's the heavyweight division is probably not the most boisterous when it comes to talent right now, but at least he's given us something to talk about. He's going out there, and that was his fifth win, I believe.
He's probably next in line after Silgan. Like, there's who else is there really? Like,
100%. Yeah, that's 5 fights in 2025. He's 4-1. He lost to Sergey Pavlovich by unanimous decision, but 3 out of those 5 fights were finishes. And credit to him. Activity does bring you kind of opportunity in the UFC. So
I like that.
Love the eye patch as well. The eye patch was pretty funny.
Stealing my gimmick.
It's like, a couple of weeks after getting the eye poked out of his head, he goes back out and he goes and does it again. So
where's Tom Aspinall is what I want to know. Come on, Tom. He should be on this card. Anyway, I suppose the Koji Horiguchi, as we mentioned earlier on, came back as well and beat Tahir Ulanbekov and really beat him down. It was just a fucking fantastic performance as well. And, that's one I think we're probably going to talk about more in 2 weeks' time, because the flyweight title fight is coming up then. And I think depending on who wins that, like if Pantoja loses that, you'd probably see him get an immediate rematch. But I think if he wins, I think Horiguchi could absolutely be next.
Where is the Pantoja?
Yeah. Oh, what a promo as well. What a fucking promo by Haraguchi. It's
brilliant.
absolutely fantastic.
It's like Haraguchi came in under the radar. It was a 2-1 underdog in this fight.
Was he? Jesus,
he
I didn't
was
realize
2-1 underdog for this fight. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and you're not good luck getting that price on him again. I think for a little while. But like this guy is like elite level and has been. Obviously, look at he's a little long in the tooth. He's 35 now, but still, you be seeing the level of performances that he can produce against a tough Ulanbekov, and getting the finish there in round 3 sets him right up for a possible shot at Pantoja's title, and I'm here for that. I am here for that.
Me too. Let's do it. He's his teammate as well, which I love even more. Like, I'll fight him anyway. Who gives a fuck? Brilliant. Just a few other fights there. Oh my God, worst fight of the year, the opening fight. Denzel Freeman against Marek Buja. Both guys, like, and not to go full Dana White here or anything, but like, this is your opportunity. This is your UFC debut, and both of these guys just laid an egg, did nothing for 3 rounds. Absolutely awful. Shamrock against Aliyev. Then Shim obviously lost a very lopsided decision there. Aliyev obviously was just a far superior fighter on the feet, and Shim wasn't able to get anything going much on the ground or anything. Well, a couple of little bits, but he kept going in and I suppose put a good account of himself in a very overmatched fight as well. But he'll be back again. What do you think of that performance?
Definitely will be back. Look at Shim. He likes to kind of take the fight down and try and dominate. He's got a good top game. He got an aggressive top game, but he was unable to do that against Aliyev, and it's a tough first fight to get for your UFC debut. I definitely think that there was some jitters there maybe in round 1 that he didn't get going to full capacity into round 2, but at that stage a lot of the damage had been done. You need to start strong, you need to start quick, and he'll be disappointed with that, but I wouldn't rule Shem out from going out there again, picking up a win, and that was just a tough first test for your UFC debut there for Shamrock, but he'll take lots of things away.
100%. After the main event, the most predictable fight here was the KO of Ryan Loder against Ismail Nurdiev. Again, that was very close in price as well. I gave that as one of my bets of the week. Nurdiev just destroyed him. Ryan Loder he's a wrestler. He's no fighter. I'd expect him to get cut from the UFC and probably go back wrestling or something like that.
I love how they're like talking about all of his time and experience in Bang Tao, and next thing, boom,
destroyed. And that's going to happen again if he fights anyone good in the middleweight division. Alessandro Pantoja, I thought he looked good against Beksad Almakin, and I like him as well, and he won that decision there, so he did well. We talked about the next fight you mentioned earlier on, then Aslam Abayev against Alex Perez, a lovely standing kind of guillotine choke. I'm a big fan of Amabayev and a very good win here. Again, he could be in the title shot we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, but special shout out again to Nicholas Dalby. What a guy, to win against Syed Ismagayev. I've been watching this lad for a good few years, obviously fighting over in one championship and stuff. Now he hasn't fought in a while, and I think maybe that was a bit of an issue for him in this fight as well, but Nicholas Dalby.
I think the issue was for him in this fight is that they're saying that Chimaev was a training partner of Islam throughout the fight, and I'd say that guy got absolutely shit kicked throughout that camp, and then came into this fight, he looked like dead in the water after round 2 and round 3. So
that could happen too.
But nothing to take away from Nicholas Dalby. I think Dalby fought a fantastic game plan and put a real solid pace on Sagan, and look at the underdog king, Nicholas Dalby, did it again.
Yeah, I came up with that yesterday. I thought it was good. It was just straight ahead, that beautiful. That should like literally be his nickname, the underdog king. I love that. And then we had Luke Riley, who came out there and got wrestled pretty badly for the first round from Bogdan Grad, but brilliant corner advice from Paul Rimmer between rounds, and Ellis as well. What's Ellis' second name? Ellis. God, I'm not sure. But anyway, Ellis in the corner, and they're like, just, take your time, get your striking going, get your hands going, don't worry. Like, he expended a lot of energy there, and he's like, Grant, yeah, you could see him listening and see him agreeing, and he went out and did exactly that in the second round, and put a lovely left hook, and then finished him on the ground with vicious ground and pound as well. Brilliant stuff from Luke Riley. It's exactly what you want in the UFC debut, right? You're in there against a good guy. That guy shows that he's good. He shows that he can fight. He shows a way he can beat you, and then you show a way that you can nullify that and then beat him. And that is fantastic. And I couldn't be more impressed with Luke Riley, his performance here, and Luke Riley for the last while. And like, okay, the takedown defense, and he can be a little bit open in fights, but as he said himself, he's only a pup. Give it 5 or 6 more fights time, and Luke Riley's going to go on and on and on. And he's a good gym there and everything. I'm very enthused with Luke Riley, and I know you've been following him for a long time as well, Ian. It's a great win for him. The first round, obviously a tough first round for him, but the second round was unbelievable.
First round was a throwaway. I think he's coach Ellis Hampson. Is that the
maybe?
I don't know. Anyway, never mind. First round was a throwaway, but second round, I mean, when you land a shot like that, that's what everyone is going to be talking about. And I think there's lots of room to grow there for a guy like Luke Riley. He's always in exciting fights. He's got the perfect style to go places in the UFC. And I mean, it shows the level of character that he has, that he had an absolute, like, I mean, you're dreaming of your UFC debut since you were a boy. You go out there and the fucking first round goes is just about as bad as you could expect it to go, and getting taken down and getting dominated. Obviously excellent cornering, but an excellent mentality to go out there and land that big shot, and show the killer instinct that we've seen in Cage Warriors as well, to follow up and get that finish as well. It was like really, really good. At 26 years of age, I hope the UFC match him well, give him time to grow, because if they do, I think he could be a right good problem there in the featherweight division.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the UFC card. Pretty good card all told, and obviously a big win for Irish MMA in the co-main event. Let's move over to a bit of European MMA here for the last few minutes of the podcast. Just quickly run through Oktagon. Didn't manage to catch all of this card, but I'm very surprised. Actually, I didn't see the result until now. Hafini Nafuka actually lost to Matthias Kahut, and I know Matthias is a good fighter. Nafuka only took this in a couple of days' notice, but I still expected him to get the win there. But that's a very good win for Matthias, but tough loss for Nafuka there. Split decision, so I'll need to go back and watch that one. But I suppose a little bit unexpected there. Ronald Pardee said former champion got a great win as well, as did Alexander Popek. I saw our guy Will Fleury throwing a bit of shade in him, saying, he's gone down in weight. Why did he go down in weight? And Will was like, well, went down in weight because he knew he'd have to fight if he didn't. So that's an interesting one there. Christian Jungwirth, obviously one of the stars of the promotion, got a win over Nicholas Stolze as well. And in the main event, Matthias Legersky beat Attila Kormes to win the lightweight title by decision. Legersky, very, very good fighter. Like, he's the sort of guy who will come into the UFC probably in a couple of years' time, and people might know how good he is, and I think he'll run through a lot of lads. But for the moment, I think good stuff over in Oktagon. And then I suppose Irish MMA on that as well. Dennis Frimpong was doing pretty well in that fight, Ian, but then he got caught with Gokhan Aksu. If anyone listened to the betting show last week, I kind of predicted this. I hate picking against Irish lads, but Gokhan Aksu, this guy has serious power, and he wins all of his fights exactly like this. All he's looking for is that one big shot, and he found it against Dennis. Tough loss for Dennis, Ian, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very tough loss. Like, Dennis has done very well into kind of manufacturing this opportunity, and a win here would have put him right into the title mix. And it was the same for Gokhan as well. I mean, a win for him now puts him firmly in the title mix. And when you're talking about a guy 11 of his 14 wins by knockout, you're spot on what you said. It's not about, for him winning every single minute of every fight. It's about finding the range, landing the big shot, and that's exactly what he managed to do against Dennis. And Dennis can take a fair smack as well and showcase the big power that he has. And an unfortunate one for Dennis to be back to the drawing board for him. But there's lots of interesting fights for him in the lightweight division in Oktagon, and he's done very, very well to get as far as what he's gotten so far. Yeah. And hopefully he'll get the opportunity to kind of march towards the title again.
Yeah, and then over in Cage Warriors, kind of a good and bad weekend for Irish. I mean, I suppose Jordan O'Neill had maybe the fight of the weekend in Cage Warriors against Mitchell Good, just in Saturday back and forth. Maybe not the best of tactics. Maybe in this, just was standing there letting Mitchell Good punch you in the face, which is like, I'd say that's fun and I love it, but putting on like the judging hat or something, like the judges probably don't like that all the best. But anyway, he won the judging.
The long term fucking health.
That'd be great. Yeah, that's it.
I mean, come on, you like fair play to him. Like, look, mind games is what you're trying to do when you do that. But I mean, it was a wild fight, Johnny. Like a really wild fight. Over and back, and Jordan started well, and then looked tired, and then got a second win and fought back. And Mitchell Good, he also performed really well too. It was just these two boys just slinging for 3 rounds straight, and it was what if you have not seen that fight, I would definitely recommend go back and seeing it. And
fun one.
Jordan O'Neill gets the win, unanimous decision, 4-0. Up the O'Neills, that's what I say.
The O'Neills. Emer Darcy dying, a poor loss again for her, a bit of a late stoppage in that one, and this is a couple of losses now. Like I remember we talking about Emer and thinking like she's a very good athlete, powerful striker and all, but just hasn't gone her way so far as a pro, Ian, has it? And another tough loss here in against Rekchova.
Yeah, this was really, really tough for Emer Darcy. Obviously, very slick on the feet at the best of times, but got taken down here, got dominated throughout the course of the fight. But it was in round 3, I think it was about 40 unanswered shots that she took. And I mean, what's the referee looking at here? Look at Emer was moving in positions, but she was also curling up. I think Emer was showing that she was done at the stage of a fight, and the referee really let her down by stepping in a little bit too late. And hopefully Emer is doing all right. It was pretty gruesome towards the end of that fight too, and it's going to be a tough one to come back for Emer. But she'll have a couple of more fights. Hopefully she'll dust herself off. I think she should give herself a little bit of time off after that fight and see what happens. Maybe try it for the February card in Dublin or something like that. But I mean, tough fight against a tough opponent as well, and she'll be disappointed with that one for sure.
Yeah, not much tape on the opponent as well either. Obviously only one fight in.
It's hard in those kind of fights, Johnny. And
she looks a good prospect, Tsarukyan as well.
It looked really good. I mean, it wasn't. It was just Emer Darcy came against better opposition on the night. So 100%. I mean, the referee, you got to do better there. You have to do better there. Like this is crazy. Like.
Yeah, and I'm usually one for like let it go a little bit. But this, when there's someone down and they're on their knees like that and they're getting the ears pucked off, I'm like, this is not like you're stuck in a position or I agree with you totally.
But it's the body language too. You got
that over. Like,
have the experience to know when the right moment is. So I think that was absolutely 100% egregious by the referee, to tell you the truth.
The main event of that card in Aidan Lee. Look, when you get through the first round against Damon Wilson and he doesn't land those big shots and knock you out, the fight's going to turn. And I picked Aidan Lee coming in and thought the submission was there, and he ended up getting it in the end. So a good win for him there. There was supposed to be a main event there. I'm not sure what was the main event supposed to be. And fights.
Oh God, fights are falling out left, right, and centre.
It's ridiculous. So.
I don't know. It's Anthony Orozco. Orozco versus Elvado Santos. Santos was not medic cleared for that fight, so another welterweight fight that fell through. That was it's tough run of fights here for Cage Warriors lately.
I see fucking I don't know, they're going to go. Primetime Stevenson was giving out again about Cage Warriors over there and putting on these loads of Brazilian lads who are like 0-48 against Cage Warriors best fighters and stuff like that. I suppose I haven't been following that maybe as closely as you. Is that becoming a pandemic in Cage Warriors now? Like my biggest issue always with Cage Warriors, I think, is like for some reason there's so many fucking fallouts and so many fights get cancelled. But that's like a thing I think we're not used to seeing on like the PFL and the UFC and stuff. I think I don't know, is maybe this is too simplistic, but like if you're working a job and you've no fucking money and like then you're fighting on the weekend, you're more likely to fall out of a fight than all you're doing is preparing for 8 weeks or 10 weeks for a fight, and then you have to get someone in short notice in Brazil. Now some of these aren't in short notice, in fairness, and like we all know, like Cage Warriors, a lot of the matchmaking these days is like we have a fella. He signed to our management company. We want to get him to the UFC, and are we going to match him up against the very best in the division? And we're not seeing that as much, absolutely. But is it a massive issue, do you think, or like is it something?
I think it's a massive issue in the welterweight division, and I don't want to steal Andy's point here. I think we talked about it on the old triangle here, but I think the problem is with certain level of matchmaking within the welterweight division in Cage Warriors, where you have a lot of prospects there. You have the welterweight champion that's spending money to fly over to Qatar to beg the UFC for a fight. You have Sean Clancy Jr. that's fighting for this Brazilian guy that's been brought in as a debut for the interim welterweight title. Where we have guys like Leon Hill, Adam Darby. Obviously James Sheen is there as well. Obviously, he's probably taking some time off after the Burlinson fight. We have Anthony Orozco that is fighting this Evaldo Santos here. And I guess, the biggest qualm and what we kind of talked about on the outer angle was, at what point can we just match these guys up together a little bit? And obviously there's the aspect of Graham Boylan that's managing a couple of these fighters and maybe not wanting to square them off as well. And that can, be a potential issue. And I think, what does that do? That devalues the Cage Warriors welterweight title. That devalues Cage Warriors title in general. And me and you have spoken about that, Shawnee, in terms of what the Dana White Contender Series has done to regional promotions like Cage Warriors, and I would assume others in the States as well, as to that fighters do not want to go and fight for the title in here. They want to stay fighting other fighters that are maybe brought in last minute, and they want to, obviously the most important thing about finding last minute opponents for these fighters is so that they can fight and they can get paid. That's number one. But we always viewed Cage Warriors titles as prestigious titles, but it would seem over the last number of years that with the introduction of Dana White's Contender Series, that title doesn't hold the same level of value as it once did, because of other opportunities where fighters don't want to maybe fight or maybe get tied into championship contracts and stuff like that and miss out on opportunities. And I think the issue is kind of coming to a head right now in the welterweight division, in particular in Cage Warriors.
Yeah, it's a very interesting debate. It's probably a podcast we could do all by itself, or even get Andy on to do it as well. But I've always been, and I remember I think I talked about this with Will Flory, funny enough, on a podcast once. I've always kind of been of the, let's matchmake a guy to get him to Cage Warrior, or to get him to the UFC type of thing, and let's get him test. Like, I think, like, if you take Ian Garry, for example, right, the way he fought in Cage Warriors against Rostam Akman and Jack Grant, right, two good tests. Former UFC guy and a BJJ black belt who brought him 5 rounds. But I believe that was Akman's first fight in Cage Warriors at the time. And then, Jack Grant obviously was up there around the top of Cage Warriors at the time, but he's not like another top big prospect coming through. Like, imagine, let's say Ian Garry had fought Justin Burlinson or James Sheehan. He fought James Sheehan early in both of their careers, but if he fought James Sheehan when James Sheehan was on the verge of going to the UFC as well, like, I suppose the argument there is, what is the purpose of Cage Warriors right now? Is it to provide a champion that is the best champion you can provide, or is it to get a guy to the Contender Series or get a guy to the UFC? And
that's the point that Andy was making.
100%. No. I was kind of joking about Andy there. I think he's right. I think most of what he said, I agree with.
I think it was a very good point to make, and
but the one thing I would go though, I don't know that's wrong necessarily, and I think I get the point about Graham Boylan being the manager, and we have this, the whole managers in America, managers and promoters can't be the same person and all that, and Ali Abdelaziz had to leave World Series of Fighting back in the day, but that's not the thing here. Like, if we didn't have managers who were promoters in Ireland and the UK, the scene would fucking die, because there'd be absolutely no one doing it. So it's a different situation, and I understand, and it's not like I'm sticking up for Graham Boylan and stuff. Like,
I don't mind it all that much either, but until it becomes a problem.
Yes,
and it seems that it is, especially in the welterweight division right now, it's becoming a little bit of a problem. You know what I mean? Because like, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do, kid? Like, no one's going to be asked to go onto the Dana White's Contender Series now until probably June or July of next year. So what are we going to do with this title?
Yeah, it's interesting to see what
why look, Sean Clancy Jr. is managed by Boylan and a couple of other prospects coming up, Leon Hill, Adam Darby. I think, and the big point in the argument is why is a guy that's coming over from Brazil coming over to fight Sean Clancy Jr. for the title when guys like Leon Hill and Adam Darby and other fighters as well have been working and fighting within that promotion.
What do you think the answer to that question is?
The answer is that because Graham doesn't want the whole, like, if you put two of your guys together, one of them moves forward and one of them gets pushed back.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the answer to that question. Yeah. And I mean,
and
that takes away from
wrong with that though. Like, because like we talk about that all the time. Like, I'd rather Ian Garry fight for the title next and then Morales fight for the title rather than Ian Garry fighting Morales. Do you know? So like, it's a similar sort of thing in that you'd rather Sean Clancy get a fight, win it, go to the UFC, and then, you know, James Sheehan get a fight, win it, and go to the UFC. Like, but that's when you 5 or 6 of them, that gets a bit.
Yeah, but some of these guys can go and win and have a little step back, and then still, if you're good enough, you're good enough.
That's true. The same time. But like,
I understand it too. Don't get me wrong. I understand it, but it is a little bit frustrating to see, you know, a little bit of the value coming off the Cage Warriors title. I think that's what's the most frustrating thing is for I think me watching on and maybe Andy watching on or whoever else thinks the same as well. But look, it's a business at the end of the day. I do understand it. I don't feel too strongly about it, but
I think it's an interesting debate. I don't necessarily think there's a right or a wrong side. I think, like, because as well, like, okay, right, the best fight the best, and they become the Cage Warriors champion, right? Who's the Cage Warriors welterweight champion right now? Justin Burlinson is talked about earlier. He's over still begging to get to the UFC. So, like, what does the Cage Warriors title actually get?
He's homeless now, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy. Like, and I think your point is well made. That, like, the Contender Series has created this weird fucking midpoint in MMA. Do you know what's a big issue as well? And funny, because Koji Horiguchi fought last night, and someone tweeted me about Neil Seary and what a guy. And then I was like, Neil Seary, great man. And then Seary tweeted me back, and I was thinking, Seary did a great interview with Andrew one time, and he was saying about, like, everyone thinks they're going to be Conor McGregor, but don't fucking put all your eggs in one basket. Like, if you have a job, fucking keep it. Train as much as you can. Look, if you get to the UFC and you do well, and you need to give up your job, grand, but don't. I feel like that advice has been thrown out the window. Like, all these lads, none of the, like, a lot, I'm not saying none of these lads, but a lot of these lads are not working, or they're maybe drawing the dough, like living at home, and I'm going to be a full-time fighter and putting all my eggs in one basket and getting there. And look, a lot of them are getting there, but there's a lot of them that won't get there as well. And there's a desperation, isn't it?
And still, like, I mean, a lot of people get there and do it and still have nothing for it as well. It's interesting that you said that too. You know, we had Dylan Tuke on after he announced the retirement, and he said the exact same thing as for what advice he would give any up and coming fighter, and that was make MMA your hobby in certain terms. Yeah. Don't have it as your number one, because, and I think that's very valuable advice. Very valuable.
And that goes to the point as well, like, because it's very hard then to go to a guy, right? You've put absolutely everything into this, and I'm going to put you in there against the toughest guy in the world that I have for fucking peanuts to get you a chance to go to the UFC. Whereas I could give you an easier fight, then you maybe could get on the Contender Series and go to the UFC and make a bit of money. Like, it's a very different world from the world we used to have. But I don't know. Like, I think the thing with Cage Warriors is I have no problem with this. I have no problem because I used to always say this before anyway, right? I was always on the, like, let's match make lads to get them there. Now, I do want to see great fights sometimes, but, like, this fucking Solomon Simon against Nick Bagley fight, I'm fucking, when those fights happen, I'm like, yes, absolutely, let's do it. But one of those lads is going to lose that, and then they're going to be put back for maybe a couple of years, and, like, okay, let's take that fight. So then
it's not a problem then when there's no conflict of interest.
Well, that's fair enough too. And is there who's the both of their managers? I don't know. I don't pay attention to that.
I have no idea either, to be honest.
If Graham Boylan's both their managers now, but, like, the thing about that is, like, let's say both of those lads, right? They're doing a bit of, you know, PT or whatever it is on the side, but they're not working the fucking factory job or whatever. They go in. One of them wins, goes to the UFC, you know, earns $100,000, gets a bonus in the next year, and the other guy goes back and he's to have two more Cage Warriors fights, and he maybe earns fucking $7,000 or something like that. Like, it's very tough to put someone in a situation like that. Like, I'd be like, give me the risky fight when I get to the fucking UFC. But again, I don't know. And one last thing before we move on, because we spent fucking an age on this, and listen to the All Triangle, they probably had a better debate even over there. But I would be very, very, very slow about criticizing something like that who's produced so many great fighters for so long. And I'm not saying that you did, but in general, right? Because, like, imagine if Cage Warriors went away tomorrow. What would, like, where that vacuum that would leave? And I know Oktagon do great things in KSW and all of that, but it's a very, very different situation. Look how we talk about Brave. Look at lads like Keane Cowley, like the way he came through. Like, if he'd come through Cage Warriors, would it have been better? Palahan. If he'd come through a Cage Warriors, would it have been better? Or even like Kiefer Crosby. I know he got to the UFC eventually, but would it have been better? Like, I'd say yes with all of those. I don't know if you'd agree or not, but like,
yeah, I mean, throughout this conversation, I would be kind of playing devil's advocate on some of the things. I think some of them do play, but I don't want to disrespect what Graham Boylan has done for the sport of Irish mixed martial arts either. I would hold massive respect to him for everything that he's done. And the opportunities that he's given all fighters as well. I just think it's an interesting conversation to have. It's an interesting observation. And like I wanted to say, and I said this on the El Triangle again, it's not only happening at Cage Warriors, it's happening in other prominent organizations in North America as well. And I also think that it's the more so what's made things really messy. Like I said, not to reiterate my point, is the introduction of Dana White's Contender Series. But me and you, Shawnee, talked about that very early stages.
Yeah. And you mentioned, and we'll move on after this, but you mentioned Other Manager. It's happening at the very top of the UFC. I put out the tweet the other day. For how long would Khabib Nurmagomedov and Kamaru Usman not fight? And everyone was like, oh, that'd be the fight to me. I was watching a video the other day, yesterday, came up, of Khabib, Joan McGregor through the dolly at the bus and all. He was as drawn out as anyone going in weighing in at 155, and people are telling me that 170 wouldn't have been possible for him. Like, him versus Usman was the fight, right? But they never train. They don't train together. It's not that I'm sure they train together. They don't train together. They're not from the same country. None of that, right? They're not at the same gym. Never at the same gym, and they wouldn't fight each other. Why? Because they're the same manager. And now Kamaru Usman, 38 years of age, a little bit past his prime. And he's a young 28-year-old or 29-year-old fighter or whatever it is coming up. Or no, he's a little bit older than that, Makhachev. And now, and I understand Khabib and Makhachev are two different people, but it's the same team. Like, Khabib and Makhachev are like twin brothers. Why will he fight him now when he's 38, but Khabib wouldn't fight him years ago? Well, I don't think you have to be a fucking genius to understand that question. So that sort of bullshit's going on even at the top of the UFC, even without the manager being the promoter. But anyway, Ian, run us through the rest of the of Cage Warriors 198. Some of the Irish people over there. I know Matthew Friel was on it, and a few more as well. Tell us about them.
Yeah, Matthew Friel obviously had a tough loss in there, and forgive me for a second here. I've just kind of strayed away from that card here, so I'm going to bring it back up. But we did have
fighting Nathaniel Woods, Nathaniel Wood from Aldi.
2.0 Nathaniel Wood. Yeah, he was obviously, had a tough fight there. I think landed an illegal knee in himself in the second round, and Nathaniel Wood looked good there. It was a tough one for Friel. Now he drops to 1-3 for his professional career, and it's going to be tough to kind of pull himself back around from a kind of performance like that. And he has the opportunity there, to come back and get a couple of more wins there too. But I think Nathaniel Wood was the better fighter on the night, deserved to get the win by unanimous decision. And I want to say Roman David from Team KF as well. We had two Team KF fighters on the card. Roman David is a guy who I've been kind of watching up through the amateur ranks as well. Really, good technical striker, really exciting to watch. I think that was on show, Shawnee. I'm not sure whether you've seen the fight as well. That was really on show against a guy like Christian Soda, who it was a tough old test for a guy like Roman David on his debut, but I think he shone through. Deserved to win the unanimous decision there, showcased his level of skills, and I'm excited to see what's forward for him in the lightweight division. The main event was a crazy one. Homer Tagarev, the interim champion, kind of came out and, showed what he can produce and what he has been producing in fights to get him into an opportunity like this and becoming the interim title holder, getting some good wins. We've seen it throughout his career. We only seen it for 5 minutes, unfortunately, on Saturday. He came out against an O'Neal Brown moving down from welterweight, a powerful, strong fighter. Looked obviously the bigger, the more stronger, the more athletic of the two. Obviously, obviously I don't know. I'm going to say obviously, but I would feel the game plan from Tugarev and Team KF would have been to try and go in and set that pace and get a guy like O'Neal Brown working. Build the lactic acid up in his muscles and then try and dominate him. And it worked, like I said, for 5 minutes, but it's like the roles switched around. It was a crazy second round. It was Omar Tugarev who was looking to kind of get up from the grappling exchanges and start striking again, and O'Neal Brown looking to take the fight down, and Tugarev started running out of gas and looked like he had an adrenaline dump maybe towards in the second and third rounds. And Chris Fields was getting very animated in the corner trying to get him back going, but he just couldn't get back going. I think kind of had a little bit of a spur of performance in the fifth round, but at that stage it was too little too late. He kind of found himself in a scenario where O'Neal Brown was dictating where the fight went. It was O'Neal Brown that was taking the fight down when he wanted to. He was letting him back up. He was landing on the feet. And, Tugarev didn't have any answers for that, unfortunately. And, a good performance here. I think what surprised me most about a guy like O'Neal Brown was how well he was able to last this pace. And I thought from the two fighters, Johnny, that, it wouldn't be Tugarev here that would be struggling for cardio as this fight went on. I thought it would be O'Neal Brown, but it turned out quite the opposite in the end. And O'Neal Brown won a pretty easy decision in the end, 49-46 on all three judges' scorecards. And it's, back to the drawing board for Tugarev, who will take away some good lessons from that fight, and I think has the ability to get back on the horse and challenge again for a title down the line.
Yeah, I think that's a bit kind. Even like lessons are definitely something to take. Did you know what this reminded me of? Like it was like a Premier League match where you go 1-0 up after 5 minutes and you end up losing 7-1, and your manager gets sent off, and it was just an absolute disaster in all areas. I think. Tugarev got out wrestled. You never would have thought that. Okay, if Brown had been able to stop the takedowns and outstruck him, fair enough. I think anyone could have seen that coming. But for him to get as badly out wrestled as he did for 4 rounds, and then like Chris Fields, the way he kind of lost the head before the last round, I understand he was trying to G up his fighter, but it backfired. It did not work at all. I think he overstepped the mark. Like he grabbed him by the neck and stuff. I think again back to the drawing board for Chris Fields as well. Like this was not good at all the way around. So yeah, but credit to O'Neal Brown on the opposite side of that. He fucking performed brilliantly. He dominated a really good grappler in the grappling. When he's a good grappler himself, but like he'd be known as more a well-rounded fighter, more of as a striker. But he found a way to win, and he just took that way over and over and over again. And a guy who's climbed that mountaintop a few times and failed and had to climb his way back up as well. So this was a real shining light and a big moment for O'Neal Brown. So massive credit to him. But again, this looked like a really, really tough one for Tugarev. A lot of work to be done there, I think, to come back. Not just I suppose the not just with his fighting, but with like the whole the whole setup, I suppose. So interesting to see what happens there. And just quickly, I suppose, run through a few more. Chris Bungard got a very good win. That was a fun fight against Patrizi. Tim Wilde, again, a fun fight against Oscar Onward. That was very good. And my guy, Shea Ingram, I always have to give him a mention. Oban Elliott's protogé coming through. I spoke to Oban a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying, this guy is as good as lads fighting in the UFC. And I'm like, Oban was like, some people need to bring in training partners and stuff. I have a guy here, and people might think, he's only a young guy, and he has only 4 or 5 fights in his career, but this guy's as good as some of these guys. And he is very, very good. And this was a very short notice fight as well. I think only a few days notice. So Shea Ingram again with another top win. He's a guy who's going to improve and definitely be a name.
Yeah, he went 8-0 in his amateur career as well. So very beat Christian Soda in an amateur who
I was meant to say as well, like, do you call it soda now? Like, are you, like, do you call it the sidewalk and, going to the park?
Come on now. I'm like a chameleon. You have to fit into your, I used to call, like when we're in work, obviously, like I'm in property management and work on my day-to-day job, right? And, I was walking around with some people before, and I was like, over there on the footpath, and everyone was kind of looking at me. He's like, what is this lad saying? The footpath? It's like, it makes sense. Footpath, sidewalk, tomato. I don't know.
I remember when I was young, I was over in America, and we went out for dinner. And my aunt, but she's Irish, but she has been in America for, at the time, fucking 50 years or whatever. And she ordered dinner, and she goes at the end, I'll get a diet soda as well, please. And then it just went, I'm like, what the fuck is it? Like, is that a Diet Coke or is it a Diet 7-Up or a Diet Soda? And it's like, grand. Bring me back whatever you have there.
What Christians should call himself is Christian Fizzy Drink Soda.
Oh, Lord. Christian Diet Soda. I like that. He got on to fucking... did he miss weight? Someone missed weight here as well. Maybe it should be Christian Diet Soda. But anyway... That's it for today. An extra long podcast. We'll be back. No fights next week, so I don't know what we're going to talk about. But we have the big UFC, the last ever UFC pay-per-view for 7 years anyway, the week after. So we'll break that down and we'll talk a lot more about everything.
Patrick, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you at the top of the table. That last one of the year.
Sheehan's going to take it. Sheehan's going to be champion this year as well. That's what I'll be tweeting out. If Team Patrick, we'll have to put in a bit of fucking extra work for the picks this week. But if you don't follow Ian, follow him at O'Neill MMA. Follow me at ChanChiMBA, at SevereMMA. Follow us on Instagram as well, SevereMMA.com, I believe it is. If you're not subscribed here, please do subscribe. It's free, and go over to Patreon as well. As I said at the start of the podcast, 20% off for annual subscribers using the code Diaz125. Check out the old triangle. Subscribe over there to SevereMMA YouTube. All those good things. We'll leave it there.
Shameless plug, 2 episodes of the Old Triangle this week. The special with Dylan Took on Tuesday, and then a review of all the action with Andy and Quilsha on Wednesday. So a double dose of the Old Triangle this week.
Andy and Quilsha and Ian, or just Andy and Quilsha?
Andy Quilsha and yours truly.
Beautiful. The most important. I don't mind them two fuckers.
Stop.
Never like. What was the Brendan Schaub quote again? Go on, shout out us.
Great guy. Never met him.
Lovely. We'll end it on that, lads. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Good luck.